This is Gustavo. I'm from Trek Brasilis. Rob, first of all, thank you so much for doing this interview. I wanted to start talking about your character because the Star Trek universe has a plenty of human slash cyborg characters. So, what do you think Zeph brings to the table that is brand new to the universe, in your point of view?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've got. I mean, Data is famously the only android other than Law and B4. That's an android, and the Borg are augmented different species. I don't know if you would call them that. I don't know if there are. I can't really think off the top of my head of other mechanized beings. But Zeph is, he's a man in a suit. He's fully in control of his own thing. He wasn't built. I don't think that there is anything like that in any of the other treks. What I find interesting, we wrote a backstory for Zeph that he was paraplegic, and that the suit was his version of a wheelchair, and without the suit he can't, he's paralyzed. And I thought that was also, we were playing around with that and talking about that and going in that in the future, perhaps like all of these things that would cause these injuries have been cured, but at this point they haven't been. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to try and put on screen over time, to be able to tell that story of, of how important mobility is, and how your confidence can be affected by the absence of that, like what happens when his suit stops working or it gets taken away from him. And I think Zeph gives the opportunity to tell lots of different stories about ableism and things like that in the Star Trek universe that have never really been told. Not that we tell any of them in this, but I'm just hoping that one day we get to.
You said in a previous interview that this movie is not the Trek people want. It's a very
Yeah.
different take from what we are used to. But for you, what's the most Star Trek thing about this movie?
I'm going to give you a correction to that,
Okay.
because this got me the other day, because I did a great interview with SFX magazine when they printed the whole thing in total, and then a bunch of different outlets just took the headline, which was "I'm terrified of the response." But what I want to say is the whole thing. What happened was that the journalist asked me, he told me how much he loved the film. And I said, that really encourages me, because he was a big Trek fan. Because I know for a fact, I know without doubt, that the response to this will be, everyone will hate it, because that's how Star Trek goes. They hated The Next Generation, they hated Voyager, they hated Deep Space Nine, they hated Discovery. They always hate it. And then 2 years later, how dare you speak badly of Discovery? How dare you speak badly of Janeway? Like, the responses are always going to be like, people will never get what they want, because what they really want, what every Star Trek fan really wants, is just 1,000 more episodes of The Next Generation. Like,
Yeah.
with all those guys at the same age, at the same time, in the same era, with the same budget, with the same writer. We all just want 1,000 more episodes, because it makes us feel safe and comfortable, and we love that so much. And so what I was saying was that I'm naturally scared of that response, no matter what it's going to be, but that it gave me so much encouragement that he, as a big Star Trek fan, loved it as much as he did. And I am really encouraged by it, because I think that this version of Star Trek that we're doing, whilst it is nothing like any other Star Trek out there, because we have a through line of people that love Star Trek, including me, who knows the original stuff and loves all that, including Kurtzman, including Tunde, including like Michelle, who are going to bring in these through lines of things that make things integrally Trek. You're going to have something that not only, hopefully, is for the people that love Trek as much as I do, but to bring in a whole new audience as well. And I coined a line recently, and I'm going to just keep saying it, is that, and I like this line, although we'll see if publicity does, because they haven't said anything yet to me, but Trek isn't for you, it's for everyone. And you may not like this version of Trek, or you might not like Lower Decks, you might not like there's a cartoon or this and the other, but lots of other people do. And Trek is for everybody. And Trek should make everybody feel the way Trek makes me feel. And so if we have to create different types of Trek, different flavors of Trek to positively impact everybody, then by golly, that's what we're going to do.
So, since you are a big Star Trek fan, you posted on your social media about that. It got me thinking if Zeph had a best friend in the Star Trek universe from different ages and times, who would that be? Who do you think Zeph would be best friends with?
That's an unbelievable question. That's an unbelievable question. Oh, I love it. Oh, are we just talking main characters or are we talking?
All of it, all of it.
Oh, that's really difficult. Obviously, Data springs to mind because they both view the world through a simplistic lens, and I think that they would just have very sweet conversations. Geordie pops in as well because I think Geordie would find him fascinating. I think that, but then you're going into other shows. Like, I think Seven and him would get on really well. Oh my goodness. It's like people always ask me who my favorite character in Star Trek is. And I always say Picard, but that's because I have to pick main cast.
Yeah.
But if you gave me guest stars, it's Moriarty.
Oh,
Like
great.
from the Next Generation, when he got his a little moment in Picard, I was so happy. But Moriarty was my me, Rob. I want to be in scenes with that character because that character Moriarty is what Section 31's all about. Typified as the villain, one of the greatest villains in literature. All he really wanted was freedom to choose, freedom of thought, and freedom to save his partner, love. He wanted to save his love. And if you can't get behind the fact that Moriarty became a redeemable and empathetic character, I mean, that's Section 31. We're bad guys, but you're going to love us.
That's true. So another fan-to-fan question. How was it like to be inside the Star Trek universe? When did you realize, like, wow, I'm part of Star Trek now?
Day one. It was, we were, have they sent you the film? Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that scene at the beginning where we're all together and we're discussing the plan on the spaceship?
Yeah.
That was scene one. And so on day one, all of us are together. We're all figuring out the character. We're all like testing things out and playing around and just being like, okay, apart from me, I'm just standing there being like, this suit weighs a lot for 14 hours. That day I lost 8 pounds in sweat and I was just standing there. We sat there and realized I was on a spaceship, dude. I was on a spaceship. I was on a spaceship in space. Like, not obviously, we weren't doing practical. But like, I was on a starship in Star Trek. And I'm sitting there, and you know how you watch The Next Generation and you watch the old shows and they're doing all this over the lights and things like that. It's the same technology. They haven't evolved that stuff. It's still just a bunch of lights with a gel screen on top of it. And I'm like, it's the same. And I'm sitting here pressing buttons. And I had a phaser. And you just sit there and go, after the first take, when we did the 12-page scene in one, like we did it in one wide. And I just looked at Tunde. He came in and I went, I'm in Star Trek! And it was one of the highest points of a high life.
So, a last question. You've worked on big productions before, like Pacific Rim and Warcraft. What did you learn from these experiences that you felt helped you on bringing Zeph to life?
From those experiences? I mean, the more you do in this industry, the more you learn that it's all, shooting to edit and lighting and things like that. You learn how to do things quicker and do things better and do things cleaner and do less takes. And, you learn when a director is saying, try this, what they're saying. And when they say, don't do that, you know what that means as well. So, you get better and better and better at kind of creating characters. And like Warcraft, for example, it was in pajamas, it was motion capture. And, my Warhammer, my Doomhammer was a stick with a light on it. And I was just around here. And so you work with a movement coach kind of thing who, Terry Notary was on that one. And he would teach you to move like you weighed 100 pounds. Everything was slower and in the belly kind of thing. And then on this one, and I'm sure they've got the test footage, and I'm sure that there will be a release of the test footage at some point. We had a test of me in the suit, and I was literally applying orc movement because the suit does not, it weighs a lot, it weighs 50 pounds, but we want to make it look like it weighs a quarter of a ton. So we were playing around with orc movement and doing the exact same things that I was doing on Warcraft to see how we could get Zeph to move like he weighed so much, like it wasn't natural. And Pacific Rim again is the last time I was in a giant suit that was basically the same thing, and the experience of being in that suit, the Pacific Rim suit, compared to this one, it's like trying to eat a pineapple that's peeled versus one that isn't. It was so much easier this time. It was such a joy to be in this suit, even though it was difficult. It was still comparatively just a vacation.
Great, Rob. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Congratulations on
man.
the movie.